Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I slurp any more coffee and run off to work, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all this awesomeness you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd mean a lot. And if you want to tell me what parts of the show you were passionate about, peeved you off, or just say hi, you can always reach me on Twitter at LikeIkes, and at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. There's got to be a better way to say that last one, but I don't know what it is, and as mentioned earlier, I'm kind of in a rush. I am finishing my coffee and about to run out the door to go to my last day of work for the year of 2023. So yeah, gonna get back down to it. Just got back like 3 days ago or whatever from the regional championship in Atlanta, Georgia. It went ended with a 9-5 record, so like 64% win percentage, pretty good. Could have played 3 of my matches better, but you know, time makes fools of us all. I don't know. But other than the tournament not going quite according to Hoyle or my preferences, had a lovely time. Got to see Daniel maybe in the flesh for the first time in like 6 years. That was a great time. I hope you're listening to this, buddy. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you. Got to crash with Dan Silver and his brother Jeffrey Silver. And had a lovely time there as well. Got to only see one of the Milliken brothers as Max was sick. R.I.P. I'm glad you're feeling better, actually. But it was sad to not see you that weekend. It was lovely seeing Dan Milkman as usual. It was literally the 3 Dans and I on multiple dinner outings, which was lovely. Got some great dinners and some mediocre breakfasts. I'm still kind of thinking, I'm forming this hot take that, in general, the service in, the South, especially Georgia, seems to be kind of lackluster. There seems to be this onus on the orderer, not on the server. Not that I'm like some lord who needs to be waited upon, but I don't know. If any of you have had similar experiences where you're kind of the service aspect when in the South has left you a little bit lacking, please hit me up on Twitter or via email, either at twitter.com at LikeIkes or passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear if I'm out to lunch or right on the money. Other than that, I just got back. I've got like 3 days, recorded an episode for y'all. Hope you enjoy it and it makes your your Christmas that much better. And I hope you have a lovely holiday season. Going back home as of tomorrow morning. At this time, I'll be leaving my apartment to go catch a flight to Reno, Nevada to see my brother and mom and dad. It's gonna be lovely. Trying to think of anything else of note needs to be noted. Delta's cracked, always fly with them. I don't know. Unofficial sponsor of the podcast, as they are a fantastic air service. So this week, we had a longtime friend and a longtime attempted get that we finally could nail down a moment in her schedule and have her come on. This is Rachel Sanders. Fantastic artiste and loving individual, as you will hear in awesome magnitude. Yeah, just finally, this has been one that's been in the works for years, between technical reasons and timing reasons couldn't make this happen, but finally got to put this whole thing together. So I hope y'all enjoy, and without further ado, take it away past me. All right, folks, today on the pod, we have the 4th grade arm wrestling champion circa the year 2000 from Horseman Elementary. They have the rare ability to do the clown frown without any makeup, and they once survived 8,800 hours without internet access. Please put your hands together for the one, the only, Rachel Sanders!
How's it going?
Going so good. Well, with an intro like that, the people, I think they could really use to know, who's your favorite superhero growing up?
Oh, great question. Honestly, I have to say Spider-Man just because the just the ability itself, like not even necessarily so much about his character or about like what he did for the world. Like I just want that superpower, like to be able to sling myself in between through like flying around basically and like slinging through buildings, like sick.
Okay, so the best part is we've known each other for most of your life and a good portion of mine.
Yeah.
You grew up in freaking weren't you in Santa Cruz growing up?
Okay, so I was born in Santa Cruz, but I moved to Bakersfield, California when I was 3
Even
years old.
Worse. There isn't shit to like clutch your wife. You would have been like, flip. Fuck, where do I go now?
Yeah, no, Bakersfield
such a lackluster superpower in both those cities.
Bakersfield is one of the flattest places you could ever possibly find yourself in. It's like everything is one story.
You can't swing for shit.
No. And there's no trees. Also, everything's beige. Not that that matters for Spider-Man, but like just saying. The ground,
just
the air, the buildings, everything. Everything. The air is beige. Yeah.
Okay, so before we leave the subject of Spider-Man, which is your favorite version of Spider-Man when it comes to like the movies?
Oh,
Are you
great.
a big fan of like the new animated ones with Miles Morales? Do you fuck with like the Sam Raimi ones? Is it like even the cartoon from like the 90s?
Yeah, so I am a huge fan of like the Spider-Verse version of Spider-Man. Like love that version, the newer like animated one. Yeah. But the Spider-Man that I grew up with, like my generation Spider-Man, was Tobey Maguire.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So there's like, there's a soft spot in there for
it's like the
version.
The first two of that one are busted. They hold up so well. Like they're still good to this day in my like Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Then Doc Ock with that, that kind of rough realization of being, tortured by his technology that has corrupted his mind. It's all great. Bangs.
I think so too. Yeah, I don't know, like, I'll watch the Tom Holland version, like, all right, just because like you kind of have to if you want to like.
I mean, he's adorable.
Keep up, like, oh, you want to pinch his cheeks or something, but like it doesn't strike, doesn't
it's
strike depth different for me. Yeah, it's just like different for sure.
So you were in Santa Cruz, and then you moved to Bakersfield. How old were you when that happened?
I was 3. So I was born in Santa Cruz. My parents were both like resident assistants and like counselors at UC Santa Cruz, and my family lived in the family student housing unit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Or at least unique. I don't know. Was it cool? Was it like a small cramped little box where they just, they fit their kids with their books, or, how was that kind of housing?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember much about it, but I think we were fairly comfortable. I mean, it was like meant for like, UC Santa Cruz. It's like, there's like graduate students, they're like older, they have like families and stuff like that. So I think that they're meant for, like to be able to accommodate like, larger groups of people. They're not like tiny little dorms, as far as I know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't like the most space, but at least we were like pretty little. My oldest brother was 13 when we moved, and then my brother Zach, and he was probably 7, I guess, when we moved too. So we were little still. It's not like we were like teenagers that each needed their own room or anything like that.
Why did your folks move from such a great and kind of celebrated surf city that is Santa Cruz to the lovely, the beige Bakersfield?
You're asking the question that I asked my entire life growing up in Bakersfield. No, so what happened was that my mom grew up at least partially in Bakersfield. Her dad, when he graduated from college, got a job at East Bakersfield High School. So they moved from, I think they were living in Utah at the time. They moved from Utah. My grandparents and my mom and her 4 brothers and sisters all moved to Bakersfield. That's kind of like where they finished out like their youth and everything like that. So my grandpa taught at East Bakersfield High School for 40 years. There's a plaque with his name on it above the classroom that he used to teach in.
Saying we're sorry.
It's the Vernon Bell Room. And then my mom, and I think two of her brothers all graduated from East Bakersfield High School. My two brothers graduated from East Bakersfield High School, and so did I. So basically, when my parents were having some trouble and they, my mom like needed to leave, they separated, and so my mom wanted to move back to where her family was, and that was Bakersfield. And so yeah, all I would say most of my cousins still live in Bakersfield. I think I have like one cousin family in Utah and like one cousin family in Long Beach or something like that. But other than that, like all my aunts and uncles, my grandma, and most of my cousins still live in Bakersfield.
Does that feel like home, or does that feel like you're kind of going back in time? And like when you go to back to Bakersfield to ever see family, do you feel like, this is home, or you're like, oh god, this place, teenagers again?
It's very much so more the second one than anything. I don't love going back to visit. It's honestly like, I don't know.
There's a reason it's not a thriving metropolis. Is what you're trying to say.
There's a reason I left as soon as I could. It's a very like consumerist sort of town. There's like not a lot to do there if you're not out spending money.
It's a strip mall city for sure.
And there's a lot of like, I don't know if you look up Bakersfield, like we carry a lot of like top rated depressing statistics, like in terms
Google
of
just goes, why?
Like why would you live there?
Come on,
just don't live there. And like literally anyone who knows Bakersfield, if they're like, oh, like where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Bakersfield. They go, oh, ooh. So I like literally like two or three responses. One of them is like, oh, I'm sorry, or like, oh, I'm glad you got out of there, or like, oh yeah, I grew up in Fresno, and like, oh man, we made it, and I'm like, yeah, dude. Never look back, and so for
do that veterans embrace, just like,
oh, brother,
all we have is each other,
comrade. We know what we've been through, and like, and then like meeting someone, it's kind of wild. Anytime I give someone my number, because I still have a 661 number, and if they know, they're like, wait, Bakersfield? I'm like, oh yeah, and they're like, wait, no, you're like, nobody would guess that I'm from Bakersfield, because I was so not. Like I did not belong there ever. Yeah. And so honestly, like going back is usually like historically been a process of like a little bit of resentment and sort of like drudging, like, all right, I gotta go to Bakersfield, visit my family. Like I'm always
deep breath.
It wasn't until really, really recently, I think, when I finally did find home somewhere else, which was eventually in Humboldt County, not where I live now, but or not yet anyways, but yeah, when I finally did find home elsewhere, then I could go back to Bakersfield with more of a sense of nostalgia and acceptance of where I've come from, rather than like like I can't believe I have to come back here. And like it was much more like that, like, oh, like I remember, oh, look at that shitty old tattoo shop. I remember getting my first tattoo there when I was 19. It's $20. Like, oh, I remember smoking weed behind that dumpster.
The good old times of
yeah, exactly.
So as somebody who, if I understood correctly, you moved there with just your mom and two brothers. So growing up under such circumstance, I would imagine, especially with the age disparity, your eldest brother is quite a bit older than you, and your closest brother, who is still a bit older than you. Is it fair to guess that you kind of that you were a little bit on the independent side growing up because of like these stipulations?
Yeah, most definitely. That's actually something that my mom reflects to me a lot, was that I was a very like private child. And I had a journal pretty much from, I would say like a very dedicated journal from like 10 years old till probably like 23 at least. And that was like that, the journal knew all, you know what I mean? But like nobody else knew the whole story. And so, yeah, I mean, like my brother, I was like 8 years old when my oldest brother left for college. And like even before that, when he was like a brooding teenager or whatever in high school, or like maybe he would come home and like live at home for a smidge of time in his 20s or something like that, it was still this like very large separation where he just kind of seemed like this like mysterious enigma that I would like see every once in a while, because he would like leave at night, you know, and I wouldn't know where he went. And then he would come back and then he would just sleep all day, you know, and I'll just like walk past his room and kind of like, yeah, I think he's in there, like, okay, you know, and I'm like, but I didn't know him
the
really.
Chimera of your childhood, just this mysterious beast. You're like, whoa, don't make too much now. It's just like watch it from a distance.
Yeah. Don't wake him up. And then my other brother Zach, who was 4 years older than me, you know, we grew up a little bit closer in age. We still weren't quite part of like the same like school generation, for example. Like we stayed just enough separate to like not have to go to school together for most of childhood. And so we like went to some years of elementary school together, but after he graduated from elementary school, we were pretty much always like, you know, middle school's 3 years long, you know. And we're 4 years apart, you know, so by the time he was like leaving, I was entering one thing, and then he was leaving the next thing, and then I was entering the next thing, you know. So yeah, we really didn't.
Just staying put, bro? I'm catching up here.
But what was really funny was that like all in all cases though, especially when I got to high school, like I was saying earlier, you know, my family had this like big long like decades long legacy at my high school. And so you know, what's something that I did find that happened was that like the remnants of my brother's like friends and like my brother's like you know, their legacies, I guess, so to speak, were like still caught up to me. So like, for example, if there were people like if my brother was a senior in high school and I was like, you know, in 8th grade or something like that. So I wasn't at the school yet, but he knew people who I would later go to school with, you know? And so when I got to high school, then I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm Zach's sister. And what? Oh my God, you're Zach's sister? Like, shut up, you know? Zach's sister, like, bleh, you know? And then it was like funny because, you know, a lot of the, like there was a couple of like, for example, teaching assistants, you know, who went off to college and came back. They might've gone to school with my oldest brother. And then the really old teachers there might have taught at school alongside my grandpa. And so there was like, you know, or like some of the older security guards and like older teachers and everything would have taught all three of me and my brothers, you know? That's and so, wild. Yeah, I really couldn't get away from like being like sort of known in that way. But it did me a favor, honestly, because like people liked my family. And so it wasn't like, you know, how like some siblings leave you a bad reputation, you know, like my siblings actually left me a good reputation that made it easier for me to get away with bad shit. Like, and so like, for example, like I would, you know, like I did a lot of like musical theater and stuff growing up. And so like, you know, a lot of people knew that like, oh yeah, I'm going off campus to like go to a rehearsal, or like I have a daytime performance or something like that. So the security guards kind of knew this about me. And like, once I could start driving myself and everything like that, I would literally just like leave, get in my car and like drive off campus and like wave to the security guards on my way out. And they'd be like, bye. I'm like, yep, see you later, you know, and they wouldn't ask any questions. It was kind of great. You know?
So during this time of like, not necessarily forced, but just kind of inherited independence, what is the first meal you remember making for yourself?
Oh,
or with any regularity, not necessarily. It doesn't need to be like, well, this is cheese and bread, and I guess that'll do. Just like, what was something that you're like, I fucking did it. This is food.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, probably like scrambled eggs or something, right? You know, something simple enough, like for a little kid. But I mean, we were like a scrounge around household, you know. Oftentimes, like if my mom, like, you know, my mom was a single mom. She worked.
Dibs didn't count. It's who ate it first.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like sometimes, you know, like if my mom like didn't have time or energy to make dinner, maybe didn't have like a lot of groceries in the house at the moment, you know, it'd be like, hey, mom, what's for dinner? She'd be like, oh, scrounge around, you know. So you just like look in the fridge and like see what's there, you know. And like, so me and my brothers would come up with, you know, like peanut butter and honey tortilla, like burritos, basically.
Yes.
You know, that was like a thing.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, but I would
Get
say
a little PB&J roll up.
yeah, exactly. Honestly, I had one the other day. I'm like running out of groceries. I'm like, I'm about to go home for the holidays. Like, let me just, you know, and it worked, dude. It worked.
Let me relive my childhood before I go back home real quick.
Yeah, no, I actually took a picture and sent it to my brothers too. I was like, guys,
tastes like childhood.
Yeah.
It's the follow-up to Smells Like Teen Spirit. Tastes like childhood.
Yeah. I'm glad to say. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say. I'm glad to say that that me and my brothers developed relationships over time. Like when I got a little bit older, and they got a little bit older, and stopped teasing me, really, like all that stuff. We were able to develop really close relationships, and now they're like my best friends. So,
aw,
yeah.
So growing up in the beige. Trying to find a B word for a town. The benevolent beige Bakersfield. What was the first job you had in that town?
So, well, actually, let me think. So something I got to do when I was a senior in high school. So like I said, I grew up doing a lot of musical theater and like did a lot of dance and stuff like that. And when I was a senior in high school, so by this time I had been doing like children's musical theater with this like junior theater group called North of the River Junior Theater for about 10 years. And at that point, you know, I was like well established in this little group and everything. And when I was a senior in high school, me and my other friend, who was my same age, got hired by the director of a show that was coming up. She got hired to do the musical direction, and I got hired to do the choreography. And so I had like one of my periods was like as a teaching assistant for like an English class that I had already taken or something like that. And so if the teacher didn't have anything for me to do, I would sit there and like choreograph. And then we'd have rehearsals, you know, I would like go to rehearsals after school, and I got a check for $300 at the end of that. So that was like technically my first job. And then after that, I was like a file clerk for an attorney for a little while before I moved to Long Beach the summer after I graduated. And I didn't really have like, I didn't get my first real job until I moved to Long Beach for like 10 months and then moved back. And then I got a job at a, you know, quasi-legal cannabis dispensary was my first job actually when I was just after I turned 21.
Cash in a vanilla envelope.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. If anybody came to inspect, you know, we had to get gone, sort of thing. Like, gotta put some stuff away and pretend we don't work here.
I'm just gonna go down to the post office and mail this.
Yeah. Don't mind me. But you know what? That job paid for my first apartment, my first car.
That's those are good things to pay for, I've been told.
It got me into life, you know. I started living.
So after that, you ended up, as I understand it, working in that field figuratively and literally, right? You went and started going out. That's like kind of not necessarily what took you up to Humboldt, but what you ended up doing on Humboldt was cannabis adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that that's what brought me up to Humboldt. So I was, you know, working like I was nannying, doing childcare and stuff like that, which I had been doing for a long time. I guess you could say that was probably my first job, was babysitting, right? But yeah, and then I was like doing food service and stuff like that, and just kind of like trudging around, feeling like I'd hit a ceiling in Bakersfield. And then me, like my partner at the time, was feeling the same way. My brother had connections with some cannabis farm in Willow Creek, California, on just on the border of Humboldt County and Trinity County, in the middle of the Shasta Trinity National Forest. Or I guess, yeah, 6 Rivers to Shasta Trinity, that whole area of nothing.
Yeah, the gaping landfill that is the 299.
Yes, exactly. Landfill full of beauty and trees and things, you know.
Gorgeous winding roads that'll make you throw up as you look at the most beautiful trees you've ever seen.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so my brother had connections up there, and so me and my ex followed those connections and ended up we just kind of like, yeah, let's go see what happens. Like we're not really doing anything of consequence here, so let's just like yeah, change of pace, change of scenery, and see what we
that
can
is
see
the
what we can
beauty
do.
of not having something tying you down, is that you can be, kind of loose to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just like we stopped at a family friend, like one of my mom's friends who lived in Mendocino, and her friend had some work for us, and so we worked for him for a couple of weeks, and that was enough to buy a car that we found in a Safeway parking lot in the middle of Willits, California. And we drove that car up to Humboldt, met up with a friend at a coffee shop who told us directions to the farm that we were trying to get to, and then we just like showed up. The farm owner did not know we were coming, but he knew he knew us, right? But he didn't know we were coming, and so we just like showed up, and yeah, and then proceeded to live there for 5 years.
So as odd as it is, I imagine that myself and any and all listeners of this are not privy to the inner workings or lexicon of such an occupation. What would you say is your favorite industry secret or term that's only used for growers of cannabis?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, that's a great question. Gosh, yeah. Hmm. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky because I don't have a lot of experience in other kinds of nurseries or like, with other kinds of plant growing and botany and stuff like that. But
Good news, most of us don't either.
yeah, okay, great. I would say just like pulling tarp might be one thing. One thing.
What does that mean?
So when you're cultivating cannabis in a light deprivation greenhouse, which basically means that you're faking the plants out to make them believe that the seasons are passing quicker than they are. And so so instead of like letting them get full sun with like a full year, so there's like full term, like plants, right? Like full season plants where you'd like, you'd seed them in the spring,
like outdoor and indoor,
plant them. Yeah, exactly. Plant them in the spring, let them grow all summer and then harvest them in the fall, like a normal plant. And then there's the ones where you just kind of like, oh, let's rush this a little bit. And so they don't get as big, but they flower quicker. And so when you're pulling tarp, it just means that you're basically you have, there's like this massive greenhouse and it's, partially covered with this big tarp, and you have to there's like strings, maybe like 3 strings attached to each side of the tarp, and each string has a tennis ball. And so you have to like wind up the tennis ball like you're about to like shoot a Goliath in the middle of the eye. You got to wind up the tennis ball and then throw it over the other side of the greenhouse and hope that it makes it, and do that with each one, and then go to the other side and grab the tennis balls and strings and pull them down. And you got to like pull this like massive tarp down. And then you have to undo that. You have to pull the tarp back off like at a certain time of the morning, usually like really like absurdly early, like to the point where you'd almost want to pull it off and then go back to bed like that early. So you have to like kind of do that back and forth every day, basically. And so like pulling tarp is kind of like it's like a whole job. Like people will get bonuses, for like being the one to like pull tarp for a season, and it's honestly a pain in the ass. So that's why they also have like they have like automated greenhouses where you can like press a button and like this like machinery, this whole like mechanism will like pull the tarp on and off for you and all that stuff. So
these new tarp pullers, they got it so easy.
Oh man, they have no idea.
They don't even know. If you told them the story, they'd all be asking like, "Are you pulling my tarp?"
Like, okay, Grandma, yeah. Are you pulling my tarp? That's a good one.
Pulling my tarp.
I like that.
I was so hoping that's how corny that phrase was going to be. That's where that came from. They're like, "No, it's an amazing story of my uncle."
Yeah, okay, Grandpa.
Okay, Grandpa, pull your tarp.
Go pull your tarp, Grandpa. Okay. That's a good one.
So
I'm gonna spread that one around. For sure.
that's what it means from now on.
Yeah, for sure.
So not to get all like big headed or anything like that, but at the end of the days, in decades to come, how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, okay. So this is a really good question. And I have been pondering this sort of question a lot over the past like um, year or so, I will say. And just thinking about like, um, what having an impact really means, like what just like this idea of destiny and legacy and like impact and everything. And I've come to the conclusion that changing the world is really easy, and we don't, and it's like it happens in like daily activities, right? And so like, for example, there was this one time when I was working at a Sonic drive-in, for those of you who know Sonic. And I was working in a Sonic in the middle of Bakersfield, where we're like running we're running food and milkshakes and things back and forth from the kitchen to the cars in the stalls. It's like miserably hot in Bakersfield all the time. And so I'm like sweating, like huffing back and forth and everything like that. But the thing with me in service jobs is I actually love them because I love the opportunity to make someone's day, like to just be nice to someone, right? I like being friendly to people, and just like the simple act of like being nice to them and serving them like kindly, you know what I mean? And like how that might have an effect on their day. I appreciate that opportunity. And so that's the way that I look at service jobs and service work in general. Um, and so like this one time, um, this is like 3 years after I stopped working at Sonic, but I walked into a bar with some friends of mine, and the bartender was like, "Did you used to work at Sonic?" I'm like, "Yeah, like 3 fucking years ago. Like, how do you remember me?" And he's
Bro,
like,
"You're giving me PTSD. Don't
like,
bring that up."
What? Yeah. No, I didn't. Leave me alone. No, he's like, "Yeah, I remember you." He's like, "I remember like it was really, really hot. It was miserable. Everybody was like grumpy. And I just remember you came and like delivered my whatever with like a smile on your face. And I just remember thinking like, wow, if she can smile, I can smile, or like whatever, you know?" And he like went about his day like, and he like had a better day because of it, and like maybe made someone else's day better. He gave me a free drink that night, by the way. So that was my like that was my little karmic, karmic comeback and everything. But it really it made me think. I'm like, dude, smiling, is that all I have to do is smile at someone? Like I can do that all day every day. I can smile at everybody, you know? And it just made me think of like the ripple effect of impact, right? And so it's like we think about like, oh, changing the world is like this huge thing, like what can I as one person do to like overthrow this massive system? It's like, no, just like smile at someone, you know? That's it, you know? And like and
serial killers all over the world, they're like, really? All right.
Yeah,
John Wayne Gacy's like, I was doing that every day. I was helping everybody.
Didn't work. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's like, you know, I could frown and then like make someone's day worse, and then they might frown at someone else, and then they might frown at someone else, and so on and so forth. Or I could start a smile domino effect, you know, basically. And so
you're the smile butterfly.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I think about like how I want to be remembered in 10 years, I just want to be like, I want to be remembered as like a person who brought light into the world, or like light into the lives of the people that that I surrounded myself with. I want to be remembered as someone who is kind and like loving and like compassionate, you know, like just a good person to the people around me, you know what I mean? And I think that goes a really long way in making a difference, a quote unquote difference in the world, you know, like how my grandpa, you know, my grandpa Vernon Bell, and the English teacher, you know what I mean, how he like, I didn't spend much of my childhood with him, you know, but how he raised my mom, you know, affected how she raised me. And so like in a lot of ways, like his legacy lives on in me and how I operate in the world, you know? And so it's like we have like impact that we can't even fathom, you know? And my grandpa, like who knows what I'll be able to accomplish in this world because of who my grandpa was as a person, you know what I mean? And so it's like this idea of like the impact that we leave not necessarily being something that's like directly like sprouts from our fingers and touches like the earth, but it's just like the impression that we leave.
It's like
on
our goodwill is our goodwill is like the first investment of damn it, Sorry, I ruined your.
No,
I stepped in and stepped on it. Like, there's that. What's it called in banking where you like it's not incremental growth, but like when you when you invest in something and then you take that and the yield from that investment and put it back into the investment again.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not an economist, so I don't know what the term is exactly, but I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. And so I've really been thinking a lot about that, and I think that, you know, just like how I carry myself in the world every day is like is a reflection of how I want to be remembered. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, before I try to say any more banking terms to ruin that that good idea, we're gonna throw it to a commercial break. But before we do that, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Go listen to "Constant Surprises" by Little Dragon. It's an awesome song, and it's just about like it's about like the unexpected. It's just about the unexpected of life, you know, and sometimes that's, you know, I think sometimes life can throw us for a loop and everything like that, and so I think it just, you know, it depends on how certain circumstances are just like universally negative. Of course, you know, certain experiences are like things that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but you know, I think that like you know, if somebody were to step on my shoe, for example, I could decide to get really upset about that and be like, hey man, what the heck, dude, you stepped on my shoe, like, blah, 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 you know, and like I can get mad about it if I want to. And in that case, I'm deciding to hurt my own feelings versus, oh, it's okay, man, like whatever, you know, like basically like moving on. And so it's like, that's like one way of interpreting, I think, this song, but I think it's also just about like the opportunities that life can provide you if you don't plan too hard, I think, is a way to put it.
Sweet. Well, with that, we're going to throw it to our sponsors, so please stick around. But hey, if you've got all the doodads you want in life, why not take a minute and enjoy Constant Surprises by Little Dragon? Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a bit. Have you ever wanted to kill a small woodland creature or break a window but not had the physical strength? I know I have. Now introducing Rock. Rock comes in a variation of sizes and ready to use. Simply put Rock in your hand, raise it back to ear level, and release. See? You've got it! This ad does not condone the violence against small woodland creatures or windows, nor will it be held liable for any inability of use when coming into contact with paper. Welcome back, everybody. So, Rachel, what is your passion?
Great question. I am particularly passionate about I don't know. I'm an artist. I love creating. I love dancing in particular. But I will say that something both more specific and less, is doing things in and for my community. And I'll just give you a few examples. So I lived in Humboldt County for about 7 years. While I was there, I served on the board of 3 different arts nonprofits, one for a dance studio, one for a poetry collective, and one for a figure drawing collective. That was made up and run by figure drawing models. Let's see, I curated, produced, organized arts events. I created a collective of multimedia artists called the Only Skin Deep Collective, and through and with that collective, I've produced 10 art shows. We just did our 10th one actually on Zoom a few weeks ago, December 1st, in fact. And so for, like, also with that poetry community that I was telling you about, it was this group called Word Humboldt. It's no longer in operation right now, but while it was, we had an active weekly open mic at a local coffee shop. We'd have like dozens of people show up every week. They would come and bare their souls on stage to each other and like really build fast family that way. There's something incredible about so it's like, when you're trying to meet someone and you kind of like shoot the shit for a while and like, there's a lot of small talk and you kind of have to like get through a lot of blah 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 to get to like the part of being a real person and like sharing like vulnerabilities and stuff like that. All of that happens in a matter of seconds inside of a poetry circle. And so you invite people to come on stage and read a poem, and suddenly their heart and soul like in one poem, and you're like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, like I relate to that so hard. And you can like cut through all of that excess like blah 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 and actually just connect with a person and like connect with their like real selves, and so like I was not only an organizer of those events, but I was also a host. And so I was like kind of an MC, and I got to like introduce people. I got to kind of reflect like sort of like reflect a collective response, you know what I mean, to each person who shared on the mic, and kind of like make sure they felt welcome and safe and loved and appreciated and valued and everything like that. Just for the fact that they were human, for the fact that what they shared, and then also just encourage them to continue expressing themselves creatively. Like, it was beautiful. Like, it was a beautiful experience for so many reasons, not just because the poetry was like amazing poetry, but also just because like how quickly people like shed all of these layers of themselves to just like speak their truths, like to a bunch of strangers was incredibly powerful and super brave, right? It's like a really courageous thing. And so to be able to like facilitate those kinds of spaces where a lot of healing and community building happened was incredible. And same goes for like these other art shows that I've been curating. It's like opportunities for people to really like to share something very like deep and profound of themselves, and to have their community members like hear them and listen and see them, and like and just like seeing what that does for like relationships, like local relationships and everything, is like incredible. I and most of like all of this stuff is like volunteer based, right? So like most of everything that I do for my community is just out of the pure love of it. Even tomorrow, like I'm gonna go. So I've been finding ways to get plugged into local like community actions and stuff like that. I live in Oakland, California now, and tomorrow I'm going to this sort of like park party food. Oh gosh, like food giveaway sort of thing. It's organized by the Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Network. And so it's basically like the currently running chapter of the Black Panther Party that's still in Oakland, California. They're handing out food. They have like free food. They pass out free food like every week or every other week or something like that. And tomorrow they're having like a food giveaway and like a little open mic and stuff like that. And so I think I'm gonna go sing and like maybe read some poetry and stuff like that, and like hand out food to my community, and it's like things like that. You know what I mean? Where I like really get to like invest in and be a part of like what's happening around me, and like and not.
Hell yeah.
I do think that there's a lot of value in connecting online. For example, it can be incredibly useful. Like social media can be a useful tool for us to find family and community, and choose choose and find each other and find ourselves and everything like that. But I think that I like to use social media to find ways to plug into my community, and so like into my actual like local community and everything. So so that's like something I'm planning on doing tomorrow. And I've been like very active since I got here, really, and like figuring out how else I can like serve my local people and everything. So that's a huge passion of mine, and I feel like it shows up in sort of artistic or creative manifestations often, but it doesn't necessarily always have to. I really really just enjoy like being with and around people and serving them, like I was saying earlier. I feel like
Passing the smile on, it's just like passing the kind of the service on. It's sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like in a lot of ways it feels sort of ambiguous or vague, but in reality, like for me anyways, it doesn't necessarily matter how I'm showing up for my community as long as I am, and that can come in a number of different ways. Even like my job here, I work as a postpartum doula right now, and so I'm helping families when they bring their new babies home, and a lot of these families don't necessarily have support. And historically speaking, right, evolutionarily speaking, humans grew up in villages where we had tons of support, where we had tons of help. Like the phrase "it takes a village to raise a child" is not a metaphor. Like that actually means what it says. And so it's like, but we have kind of like sequestered ourselves into these little individual lives and everything, and then we expect ourselves to be able to do everything ourselves. It's not reasonable, it's not fair, and then we like shame ourselves for not being able to do it. It's ridiculous, it's totally backwards. And so like even the work that I do as a doula is really about bringing community back into our existence, you know what I mean? Instead of like feeling like, yeah, like I'm an independent individual, it's like, sure you are, but also like ask for help when you need it and receive it, and that's okay. And like, I'm here to like extend that. So that's, I don't know, I feel like that's a big part of like, I don't know, probably my whole mission in life, you know what I mean? And so I think that's going to be like a big focus for a good portion of my existence on this planet.
So you were saying earlier that you first got started with this, or not first got started. You mentioned that you did this when you moved up in Humboldt with art shows and like poetry and open mics. Was that the first time you had experienced in either doing this or having a role in kind of being behind the scenes and setting this up, or is this something you'd done even before that?
So I would say, yeah, I think it was a pretty novel experience to my time in Humboldt. I had like less emotionally invested experiences of like being backstage and like kind of helping set up experiences for other people before. I do appreciate so like I was telling you earlier that when I was a senior in high school, I got to be a choreographer. But I also that year also stage managed a show for my school and then directed another show for my school. And so like, whoop, whoop. And there was something that like I found that I really, really enjoyed about being part of the team that creates experiences
Total
for other
power.
People.
Control. Dance, minions.
I told you dance now. Twirl, twirl, twirl again. No, just like creating experiences for other people. Pah, do it again. I don't care. Is it 12:30 a.m.? Do it again. Just like creating experiences for other people, and so, I mean, that was something that caught my interest, I think, pretty early on. But I would say that Humboldt was where I really learned to harness, and like hone more of that in. I started Only Skin Deep Collective in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and we did our first 2 shows online. And then we did our next 3 or 4 shows, like hybrid, live, like a live show in person that was also being live streamed and everything. So, and then, we did one that was just live. We did one that was just on Zoom recently. But anyway, so I would say that that's definitely something that I have more recently come into, is like the event coordination, the sort of like curation of things and like gathering people together and everything like that is something that has more recently really made itself very apparent as like a passion of mine and something that I'd like to do more of and pursue. Actually tried to get a couple of jobs. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You're saying trying to get
I was just saying I tried to like initiate and plant some seeds to get like event coordinating jobs in Humboldt right before I moved, and they all fell through. And so now that we're talking about it and thinking about, I'm kind of wondering if it's like something that I'm really supposed to get paid to do, or if it's like something that I'm just like meant to do, like not,
Yeah. Is this what I do next, or is this what I do while next happens?
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of neatly leads me into my next question, which is, what is your dream involvement with this passion? Is this something that you like doing outside of your job, and not that it would taint the experience, but that getting paid would make it feel different, as it is so much of a gift that you give? Or is this something that you would love to be your life's work, get paid, live, breathe, do this for all as your main source of income and your main life's focus?
Yeah. That is a really good question. I feel like, I don't know, there are certain things that I'm willing to sell out and other things that I'm not necessarily. And so like I don't mind getting paid for event coordination, right? I've done it before. I've I've produced events that brought in money, and I paid myself because I needed to, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
like hella
It
broke
turns out
because
food is not free.
guess what? All this volunteer work doesn't pay very much, you know? And so yeah, and neither does like discounted childcare. so so like there are certain things, like I have been paid for this before, but I don't know that I would want to like hustle it as my main
Yeah.
thing.
It loses some of that flavor
Yeah, and I
when
think
you are like trying to like, all right, so you guys are going to pay me for this, as opposed to I want to make this happen. What can I do to make this happen?
right, and it kind of like regardless of what I get out of it, because
Yeah.
it's the experience is what I get out of it, and I think that like, there's certain types of like I don't know, like, so I mean, of course I could go the event production route where I'm like, I like go work for a nightclub or something like that.
Yeah.
That could be cool, but like, do I really want to do that with my life? Like, I don't know. And so there's like, so for me as a dancer, for example, something that I'd started doing in Humboldt was go-go dancing, which is basically just like, in my experience anyways, and I've been able to like do this at festivals. I did this at Burning Man. I did this at Northern Nights Music Festival. I did it all over Humboldt. Where I just like am at events, I'm at, DJ dance party type things, and I'm basically just like improv dancing alongside the music, hyping up the crowd, being an entertainer, you know what I mean? I will hustle that all day, you know what I mean? Like as an entertainer, like I have no problem with like with like utilizing my body and my like skills and time and talents and everything like that for that purpose to make money. Um as like in a different way, you know what I mean? There's like a different side of me as a movement artist that is a little more sacred, for example, or maybe is a little more focused on like cultural reverence, or like artistic expression, you know what I mean? Less about entertainment and more about like real like expression, storytelling, things like that. And like those kinds of things, I wouldn't necessarily be so quick to sell out for, to get paid, I guess. So I don't, yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know that it's something that I would want to do. Even like the doula work that I do right now, like I get well paid for it, but one of my goals is to get paid well enough by the clients who can afford it so that I can afford to offer the services for free or very low cost to the clients who can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think it should be work that's like exclusively available to people with money, Yeah. And so like that's like, even that's like, and I've only been a doula for like a couple of months, and that's already like in my head, where I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right to only
doula
like
for the people.
Exactly. So I don't know. I feel like, just in terms of like, yeah, that idea of like community service really is like, do I want to get paid for community service? Like, I don't think that's the point,
Yeah.
So
the payment is the friends and smiles you make along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that I do want to, but I do still need to eat. So you gotta figure that out.
Can't live off smiles.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, myself especially included, have no idea what it goes into, curating and hosting an event, let alone an artistic event for a community where money is, I'm assuming, not just an infinite resource. Can you walk us through like if it's like a day, like what it is to like set up for that day, or if it's even a week out? Like what does a week or a day look like in that experience for you?
Yeah. So it depends on like the nature of the event, of course, but I'll just like take you through, for example, the kind of timeline of like one of my like only skin deep productions. And so usually these productions are very mindful, very heartfelt sort of things where I want to give all of the artists involved time to think about and reflect on the theme. And so usually like I will think about a theme for the next show months in advance, and then give that theme to the artist like at least 3 months before the show happens, if not more. And I've decided a long time ago to only do like one word themes so that they're relatively open ended, where you could take it however you want. And so like one of our more recent ones was dreaming. And so like in that sense, you could think about it like, yeah, like you could talk about like a dream that you had, or you could talk about a dream that you have for your life, or like what you dream the world to look like ideally, or like maybe you could reflect on your nightmares, maybe there's like, and so kind of like thinking like, it like really any
Wouldn't that be fun?
yeah.
Let's relive the shitty moments all together at the same time.
Tell me about it. So there's this phrase in the poetry community, "bum me out," when you're like, oh, do you, like a poet will get up and be like, I don't know, I've got kind of a sad one, and everybody will go, "bum me out." So that's like
that feels like that should be like the A24's like running taglines. Yeah, hey, come here, we'll bum you out.
Bum me out. Yeah, go ahead, make me cry. Or "don't be nice" is another one that we sometimes we use. Don't be nice. So yeah, like there's a lot of like, I try to make it I try to give the artist like a jumping off point, so they're not just like staring at a blank canvas like I don't even know where to begin,
what do
I do, you know what I mean? So if you have like a word, then that can be like a helpful jumping off point without being too restrictive that they can't go anywhere they want with it. And so I'll give the artist a theme like 3 months in advance, and and then just kind of like give them sort of some general details of like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the show on this date, maybe it'll be like, so I'll just start giving them like general details as much as I have them available to me. And then comes the process of building the cast list, and that sometimes that also comes with like seeking out artists. So we have like our collective roster basically of like people who've been in the shows already, but then there's people who haven't been in the shows that I know of who may have expressed interest or maybe don't even know that it's happening or like whatever. And so I like make it a point to reach out to new artists pretty much almost every show. And then I have to I have to reach out to venues and figure out like dates and times that are available for the live stream shows in particular, except for the last couple of ones. I did my own live stream and found like a different tech team, but up until then I had outsourced all of the tech to this like local AV group basically. And so kind of coordinating with them, and then I would make a poster or make several different kinds of posters for the event. I'd go get some posters printed out, go hang them around town. I'd also make sure to put them on social media, make sure that the artist had a copy of them so that they could share them on social media. I would call the radio stations, the newspapers. Oftentimes nowadays there's just like an online form to fill out. So I just go, online and like fill out like the, this form to like get the thing on the radio, get the thing in such and such newspaper and all of that stuff. So there's like a whole marketing part of it, publicity and everything like that. And just trying to get people excited for it. Usually there's some element of like building a website, for like a show specific website. I used to use this ticketing platform that people could use to like either buy their tickets pre-sale, sort of buy their tickets, or if they were going to join the live stream, then that's how they would get the link to the live stream and everything like that. So then there's like, building a bit of a website for it. And then just kind of like, and then of course, like, my own part, because I always share something in my shows, and so like, now that I've done all this, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, what's my part of this going to be? And so like thinking about that.
Oh shit, I forgot something.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, whoops. And then so then like week of, it's just a lot of like reiterating things to artists, communicating last minute details and everything like that. Day of, getting to the venue, setting up the space, making sure like this one particular show, like I sat in every seat in the audience to make sure that every single audience member would have a good view of the performance. It wouldn't be like blocked by anything. Getting refreshments and all that stuff. And like, show order, I have to like get all the music, put it in a playlist, make sure that the tech team has that. Basically be the stage manager too, like making sure if there's any like lighting or sound cues or anything like that, making sure that all of the equipment necessary. So some of my artists are musicians, so they might need mics and amps and cables and cords and things like that. Some of them are dancers, so they need like ample floor space. Some of them are filmmakers, so they might need like a projector and a screen. Some of them are whatever, so just like making sure that all of the necessary equipment is there and ready. And then like basically going through the flow of the show, making sure that like all the pieces of equipment are like entering and exiting the stage as needed. I'm generally then also hosting or emceeing the shows too, and like, introducing the audience members, introducing all the artists and everything like that, and then performing. So yeah, I mean, it's not a small task, or I should say no small feat, I suppose, but it's,
I mean, it sounds like a walk in the park, really. So
just easy. Like easy peasy, whatever,
just like, after a double, just like do this thing, it's so easy.
Yeah, whatever, no big deal. But what's
other than the silly thing I just said, what would you say is the biggest misconception about, hosting something of that magnitude?
Honestly, okay, so I just listed a bunch of things that I do, right? But I also can never, ever, ever reiterate enough the fact that if the artists didn't decide to do it and then bring themselves and their amazing expressions and creativity, the show would be nothing. Like I could do all of that and then a show wouldn't happen unless the artists came, and did something and did it with passion and thoughtfulness, you know what I mean? If they didn't prepare, like, and so I often like am just like in such a state of like gratitude and awe of the people who decide to be a part of these things, because their talents are always so like mind blowing. Like I'm always just like ending these shows like, I can't believe how talented my friends are. Like this is absolutely insane. And thank you everybody for being a part of this, and everybody's like, you're thanking me? I'm like, yeah, dude, like, what do you mean? Like, I just have this like stupid idea. Like you make the show. Like you know what I mean? It's like, we don't really...
I agree 50%. I feel like you're like, and this is meant as a compliment, so please take it as such.
Yeah.
You are the chalice that their greatness can be poured into. Without you, they are literally a mess on the floor. And without them, you're just an empty cup.
Exactly. And that's like, and that's something that gets reflected back to me from the artist. It's like, oh, well, we appreciate this container that you create for us to come and express ourselves. Like you bringing the audience together, you bringing all of these people together and all of that stuff. So it's a very much so like a mutually beneficial experience.
Symbiosis, man.
Yeah, and so like I guess like if there's a misconception, it's just like that the event producer is anything without their artists, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
That's wild that there are like event holders that are just like, psh, I can fill this with anybody.
yeah,
Like, well,
no, I mean,
with that attitude, you're gonna fill it with nobody.
it is that, you know. And like one of the more recent shows that we had, I was you know, so like something that I get nervous about oftentimes is like, okay, like, oh yeah, and then the lighting, and then the sound, and then the tech, and then the live stream, and then what if nobody shows up, and then this, and then that, and I worry about all of these extra things, and then I have to remind myself that literally all that needs to happen is for there to be artists and something of a stage and an audience, and the show will happen, and that's it. And that actually did happen. We had a street version of the show in the fall. That was our ninth edition of the show. Happened during like this big art market in outside in Old Town Eureka, and literally all we had was a sidewalk, one mic, and a very small amp, and a group of amazingly talented artists, and it was a beautiful fucking show. It was a beautiful show. No lighting, no tech, no anything, and I was like, oh my god,
stop us.
like yeah. I mean, it was like the perfect reminder and example of like all you really need, you know what I mean? All of the extra stuff is like frills, and it's nice, and it adds production value, and like, ooh, pretty show, but it's not really essential to the thing, you know. And so I think that's maybe another misconception, is that like you need to have like all of these bells and whistles to have an amazing show. It's really not true. Like you just need beautiful people coming together, and like, you know, and then people to witness it, and that's it.
So that kind of reminds me in a weird way. There's this incorrect it's not a philosophy, it's the I think it's called a fallacy. Hold on, let me check this out real quick. I'm not on the internet, you're on the internet.
A fallacy, like an illogical sort of.
So there's this thing called the toolbox fallacy. Are you familiar?
No.
So the toolbox fallacy is that we as a human need an item to complete us, which arguably there are some that without a plane, are you really a pilot? You know, like if you don't fly a plane, are you a pilot? Yeah, probably not. So you probably need a plane to be a pilot. However, you know, to be a runner, you don't need Nikes. You just need legs that work. And, you know, the rest of it can be, barring certain things, you know, troubleshot around. And it's the same kind of thing, you know, you don't I have a friend and past guest, Lucas Frank, that doesn't like when I call him a rock star, but the motherfucker is, and deal with it. If you hear this, Lucas, fuck you, you're a rock star.
Sorry, bro.
Because you play rock music and people listen to it.
Yeah.
To me, that's the only, you know, those are the only true requisites. The rest of it is by magnitude. You might not be the biggest rock star. You might be the rock star he wants to be as big as, but it doesn't change that he's a rock star. You know, your friends that are, you know, artists and were worried of the circumstance, regardless, you know, of how the circumstance works out, they are that. And so the idea that, you know, you need the perfect venue to perform, you know, that is kind of is reminiscent of a toolbox fallacy to me.
Yeah,
which is,
no,
you know, understandable. It does way better to play at the Greek than it is my mom's basement.
Sure. But no, you're absolutely right. Like, it's really, yeah, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It kind of reminds me, I did this performance over the weekend, and someone who maybe doesn't perform very often, or maybe that was their first performance, or like obviously has some like odd, has like an interesting self-image, I guess, if is how I might put it. But we were like all getting ready in the bathroom together, and they're like, well, you know, I'm not really like a dancer or performer or whatever, you know what I mean? Literally like saying these words as she was about to go perform a dance. It was like, well, hold on, you know, like, wait a second, you know what I mean? You say you're not those things. But you are, though. Like, you're literally exactly that. Like, that's literally what you're about to go do. So I don't know, you know?
Bro, accept yourself.
Yeah.
So on the kind of flip reverse of the beginning of this, of like the, you know, the biggest misconception, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect that, you know, people don't know the kind of sweet, soft underbelly, the awesome, whipped cream on top that is hosting community work?
Ooh. Um, yeah. I would say it's watching people. It's oh gosh. It's I mean, I take so much joy from watching people share their passions, first of all, um, and become more of themselves by doing so, and by doing so in front of people. Watching people like gain confidence in themselves by doing so, and like feeling like seeing people receive the love that they deserve, and like knowing that I got to be a part of like building that container is an incredible honor. I was just like talking with a friend the other day who I've been watching perform poetry for over a year now. And the first time I ever introduced them to the open mic stage, they came up on stage and said, "Hi, my name's so and so, and I'm not a poet because I don't romanticize my life." And I just went like, damn, they called all of us out right now. And then proceeded to like shred this mic, like shred it to pieces.
Yeah.
And like over time and over time and over time, like they've like shown up to poetry workshops. They show up every week. Now they're a part of the board of this poetry community. Now they're showing up now they're writing all the time. They're like incredible. Now they're releasing a book of poetry, you know what I mean? And now and I just saw them the other night, and they are a different person than they were when I met them. They are like more full of life and love now. They're more I can see their belonging in this world and in this community that I didn't see when they first stepped into it, and so knowing that I like introduced this person to the mic like the first few times this ever like happened for them, you know what I mean? And not that I'm like, oh wow, I did that, you know what I mean? It's not like that at all, but just like knowing that I got to be a part of facilitating the space that eventually led to them feeling home and feeling love and feeling belonging and feeling passion and like an explosion of creativity, and finding a group of people that could encourage and coax out like this most wonderful aspect of themselves. Like that's amazing,
you're like the matchmaker to like someone's own soul.
It's, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And so seeing someone on stage like expressing themselves and being received with like love and admiration by their community the way that they deserve, and like and being a part of their cheer team, you know what I mean? And just like I love watching my friends do what they love. I love it, and so that's like a huge part of it for me, I think.
All right, well, to go away from something that you love to something that might be a little bit more lackluster, what is your preposterous peeve?
Yes, so I have just a touch of OCD, I would say. Just a touch. It's not a
dash.
Just a dash, a little pinch, I would say. And so like, for the most part, like if a room is just sort of generally messy, I don't really pay attention to like the small details of what makes it messy. But if something is like mostly clean and then one thing is out of place, that absolutely drives me nuts. And so like I like to like do the dishes, I like to like get all of them clean, or at least maybe put away in the dishwasher, onto the rack, whatever, you know what I mean? And then I like spray down the sink, you know what I mean? Like scrub it, make sure there's no spots, all of the little like grains of food and things like that, get down the drain, all that stuff. And it's like, ooh, that's a sparkling clean sink. And then I come back to the sink and there's a spoon in it. Or like a few grains of rice, or like, like even just like a crumb, like I don't even like an indiscriminate crumb. Like I don't even know what that is, but I can just see it. It's a stain. It's a blot on my perfect clean sink. Just drives me nuts. And I have to do something about it. And I don't know if like, and it like, I don't know, it does aggravate me, I think, in a very unreasonable way. Very unreasonable, for sure.
Just a tiny grain of rice.
Oh gosh, just bugs me, man. Yeah.
So
Or
how
like,
much of it is like kitchen space versus like if you cleaned somebody's room and you came back and there was a sock, just like, does it matter how much in the open versus tucked away it is?
oh, that's,
Like if it's
yeah.
in a corner versus like the center, like
I think, I think it probably just depends on like how much intention or care I put into tidying that space. And so like if it's like, oh, like, I'm like tidying up the living room and I like did everything, put everything away, like, oh, everything's back in its place, and then somebody like takes a book off the shelf and like leaves it on the table or something. I'm just like, just put the book away, like that's like how that feels. If it was like something where I'm like, sometimes I'm cleaning and I'm just like, just shove this here and put that there and just throw those things in there, and like, in that kind of situation, it wouldn't really bother me. I am thankful that I don't have to clean anyone's like personal space but my own, and so it's really all common space at this point. I would say that like, like, oh, like finding anyone else's hair in the shower is pretty annoying. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, it's just like, and that's because I am incredibly careful to remove all of my hair from the shower, and so it's like, because I have that like mindset and because I'm hyper aware of like how much I'm like leaving behind, like what my trail of evidence looks like, then when somebody else isn't necessarily as mindful, then that, yeah, it kind of triggers me.
when did this first start becoming a nuisance for you?
Oh gosh. It's probably always been like, it's probably been something that I've experienced since I was a kid, but I will say it's definitely been heightened throughout my many years of childcare. And so like if I am I will say that it doesn't, there's like nothing quite I've been like watching toddlers all day, and they just make an absolute wreck of this house, and then they're like taking a nap. I'm like, okay. And I sweep through and I like am like this whirlwind cleaning machine, and I'm like, putting everything away, putting all the books back, putting all the toys back, putting the markers, da-da-da. And then the first thing the kids do, they wake up, they get out of bed, they go to their basket toys and they dump the entire thing out. It's just like, oh my God, like, like, or they like they start pulling things off the shelves, or they just like, uncap markers and then just like use them and leave them there. It's like, oh my God, dude, like I just did all of that. And I think that one in particular is especially triggering because I know they're not going to clean it up after themselves. Like I'm going to have to do it again, like, so that's probably, especially if they're like, 1.5 or 2 years old and there's not really like, if they're like 3 or 4, I can probably get them to kind of like help me. It's not going to be very effective help, but I can get them to help me at least a little bit. Whereas like a 1.5 or 2-year-old is just like belligerent, like, no, I'm absolutely going to toss around the thing you just put away. And that's bothersome. So I would say like, yeah, especially in the last like, I guess like 5 years or so, let's say, has been that experience in particular with the kids.
Do you have one experience, kids or otherwise, that is like the Mount, what experience definitely makes the Mount Rushmore of preposterous, peeve-inducing moments?
Let's see. Okay. So I used to work at an elementary school. One of the rules that we had, it was a really small elementary school, right? And so everybody kind of took part in cleaning up the playground after it was done. And one of the things that we needed to do when recess was over was bring all of the equipment back in, because our school was an open campus. Sometimes things would get stolen, or like things would get rained on or like whatever, And so in order to protect our equipment, we would have the kids bring them back in, right? And we'd have like ball bins outside of each of their classrooms, you know, so they could like literally just like pick up a basketball, carry it back to their classroom, drop it in the ball bin outside of their classroom on their way in. Like it's not that out of
This
their
is a
way.
rocket science,
You know
kid.
what I mean? It's not out of your way. Literally just grab something on your way in, you know? And so already, you know, you're like, you know, you're seeing just like a sea of kids just like coming, you know, like no equipment in hand, you know, just like running back. No, hold on, grab you just passed by that basketball right there, right? No, that one right there, you know what I mean? Yeah, grab that one, bring it back, put it away, you know, all that stuff. But the one that really would get to you would be the kid that would pick up a piece of sports equipment, and instead of bringing it back to the thing, they would punt it as hard as they could in the other direction. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so absolutely, instead of putting it away, which is what they're supposed to be doing, they would literally just like kick it as far as they could in the other direction. And then you'd have to be like, well, go get it. You know,
is
like,
it that nice?
That was probably just like watching that happen. Like watching that happen was like, dude, you know, like, and bruh, like, come on. And like, sometimes it was kind of like, all right, well, like, hey, go get it, you know? But sometimes that's what they wanted. And that's why they would do it, right? Because they wanted to take longer to get back to their classrooms. So
yeah. The longer out here, the less long in there.
Yeah.
All right. And with that hilarious story, we're going to head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Rachel's going to enter the lightning round.
Woo. Pew, pew.
Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company.
What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil?
Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company.
Okay, but...
Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price, free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves, or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but, yup.
Even...
Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we're back! Rachel, are you ready to enter lightning round? The lightning round.
I'm ready.
All right, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times.
All right.
Rachel, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Oh, good Lord. No, I don't think so.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Do the dishes.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Absolutely.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Oh, another amazing thing. I'm an optimist. Yeah.
Sorry, I believe I'm noticing I'm becoming quite tongue-tied.
Oh, that's okay.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Honestly, it's some of the best theater out there.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Listen.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Shuffle.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
No. I don't think so.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
I am way cooler than any 13-year-old, I will tell you that.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
I don't know. I guess my rebellious self wants to say freedom, but I know that structure is necessary.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Kangaroo legs. That sounds fun.
Are hot dogs tacos?
Yes. Why not?
Would you rather meet an alien or a ghost?
A ghost.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Skydiving.
Do you read in the bathroom?
No.
Is karma real?
Yes.
Do you pee in the shower?
Yes.
To get a song out of your head, do you listen to the song or listen to a new song?
Oh, I guess a new song.
Do people who prefer Pepsi to Coke deserve rights?
Rights, maybe not dignity. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Do you work to live or live to work?
Work to live.
Could you make it either? Hold on. How can I not read? All right. There. Figured out how to read again. Would you rather?
Like, that's not a yes or no question.
Would you would you rather get rid of all the pain in the world or all the debt and hunger in the world?
Oh, debt and hunger. Some pain is necessary.
Great answer. Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
37 like units of my favorite food
That is correct.
for $5,000 in a 1 hour time.
5 G's
In a 1 hour
60
time limit?
minutes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, congratulations. You've survived the lightning round. Now, before we move on, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of in a 1 hour time limit for $5,000?
I mean, does gummy worms count?
Yes, it does.
Easy.
Now as a reward, my gallant guest, I grant the lightning round question of your own to be echoed until we get bored of it. What you got?
All right. Would you rather your first kiss be in a pigsty or next to a dumpster?
Next to a dumpster. I mean, I don't know. I can envision it like you're walking around back to get like a meal at an expensive place that like the busboy of, like Lady and Tramp style.
Okay.
And then you're like eating, and like it could be a romantic moment.
Yeah.
In the back alley.
Yeah. Maybe the moonlight is like perfectly framed through the buildings or something like that. You see like a little.
Maybe you're at work and your partner came up and like surprised you at work, and it was the first time they said, "I love you."
Wow.
Boom.
Yeah.
Romance moment.
That's true. I think you're right in that we can imagine a lot more romantic scenarios happening next to dumpsters than happening in pigsties. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't imagine very many circumstances where I'd end up in a pigsty during a romantic,
Susie, I love you.
Oh, Jerry.
As we come to a close here, is there anything you want to plug, shouts you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
Hi mom, I love you. Gotta shout out my mama. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna be performing this really cool, crazy, like immersive theatrical cabaret like dress up experience called the Edwardian Ball in San Francisco at the end of January. I'm really excited. I'm guest performing with this like amazing dance crew that's directed by one of my dance teachers. And it's a Victorian era, Edwardian era themed. Everybody dresses up to whatever like level that you have access to. Some people go a little hard and some people just like wear a top hat and vest, and that's cool, but I'll be doing a bunch of dancing that those 2 nights. That's like the 26th and 27th of January. I'm excited about that. You can find me on Instagram at NOEL92, KONOW.EL92. That's also my name on YouTube and Facebook. And those are pretty much the only 3 places you can find me online. I mean, you can try and find me on TikTok or Snapchat if you want, but like you're not guaranteed to get a response.
Cool. Okay, past me. Well, thank you, Rachel, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, yes, you, listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I really do appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, Don't worry, we put a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow. If you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.